responsible for giving us the language of Trinity. Let me move you out here. So basically, what I want to sum up here before I jump into Christological stuff is we're talking about, we've gone from talking about Canon to now talking about creed. Notice what's going on. All of those heresies that we just started narrating were all circulating in the late 100s and into the 200s CE. And they're everywhere. And they testify to the real diversity that existed in early Christianity. Orthodoxy was there, to be sure, the sense of the faithful who were baptized into the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, who shared in the life of the Holy Spirit. Orthodoxy was there. But it was buffeted and bumped around by erroneous teaching here and there as well. And there was contention for what the Bible really taught. What was the faith that was really handed on from Jesus and the apostles to us. But as you move from the 100s through the 200s, now you get to folks like Athanasius and the Cappadocians. It's starting to firm up and gel. Right there after the conversion of Constantine in the early 4th century is where this all finally consolidates. Right about the same time that the diversity of the canon is starting to kind of pull together. Okay? So that irreducible diversity that existed prior to the Council of Nicaea, prior to Constantine, is in the process of coming together, and it finally comes together shortly after Constantine converts. Well, unfortunately, controversy doesn't go away. Well, we've got a few other heresies, but this time, especially after Constantinople, the Trinity stuff is settled. Arianism kind of disappears into a kind of minority sect. But what you end up with is now disagreements over how the human and the divine relate in Jesus. So we have Christological heresies to complement our Trinitarian heresies. One is Apollinarianism. Apollinarianism was a view proposed by Apollinaris of Laodicea that Jesus could not have had a human mind, rather that Jesus had a human body and a lower soul, but had a divine mind. If you want to get an idea of what he's looking at, there you go. Iron Man. Jesus is like Iron Man if Tony Stark really were the God he thought he was. Tony Stark thinks he's God, but is genuinely human if he was really God. Think about Apollinarianism as Jesus is a robot that God rides around in. You got a human body, a human soul, but a divine spirit. Inside the machine there is a little God. The danger, of course, is that Jesus' humanity is only partial. Is he really tempted? Did he really suffer? Has Jesus really healed humanity if he hasn't united to himself all of us? What he has not assumed, he has not healed. If Jesus didn't assume an authentic human spirit, was he really human? And if he wasn't really human, can he redeem what he has not assumed? That was the objection to Apollinarianism. You see how that formula from Gregory is super useful. What he has not assumed, he has not healed. And over and over and over again, that's affirmed. It was opposed by Damasus I, who was Bishop of Rome, Pope, in the 400s, or in the 300s. Then you get Nestorianism. Nestorianism is a Christological doctrine advanced ostensibly by Nestorius, who was Patriarch of Constantinople from 428 to 431. The doctrine, which was informed by Nestorius' study under a guy named Theodore Mopsuestia, emphasizes the disunion between the human and divine natures of Jesus. Here, Jesus is like the Hulk. Nestorius' objection, and this is where this really comes. Why do we call Mary the Mother of God? Or why do Greek Orthodox Christians make such a big deal about Theotokos? I mean, you go to a divine liturgy in an Orthodox church, it's Theotokos, Theotokos, Theotokos. I mean, they're all about the Theotokos. Why? Why do we call Mary the Mother of God? Why do we call her by that title? What do you think?
Jesus is God.
Okay. So why is why is the Mary being the Mother of God important?
Eternity entered time and space.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And, I mean, she is the vehicle through which that was possible.
Okay.
So, without her, I mean, basically, she is the bridge. She bridges the gap between human and divine.
Okay. That's a nice way of putting it. Okay, let me play the part of Jeanette Bierma.
Okay.
Jeanette Bierma was one of my beloved ladies in the church. No, it wasn't Jeanette Bierma. It was actually Jeanette Van Dittler. I had two Jeanettes in my church in Mount Prospect, Illinois, in Chicago. And they were Reformed Christians and Bible-believing, lovely, saintly women. But man, like good Dutch Reformed Christians, they hated anything that smacked of Catholicism. So I'm preaching one of my Adventide sermons and really talking up Mary and start talking about Mary as the Mother of God. And Jeanette meets me at the back of the church after the liturgy and has got her little finger in front of my face and then it wasn't Father Michael, it was Pastor Michael. Pastor Michael, I am so bothered by what he said. I've always understood that Mary is the mother of Jesus. But I don't know about this idea of calling Mary the mother of God. That almost feels like, Mary was a human, a creature. How could she give birth to the God, a very God? These were the sort of sentiments that she was bringing across. So, knowing what Jeanette brought to the back of the church and what your Protestant friends and neighbors will freak out by. I was teaching this up a block this spring, and we have a Nigerian pastor that was part of the class on early Christianity, and absolutely blew a gasket when we started talking about Mary being the mother of God. And I said, oh man, Peter, you're a heretic. Hate to tell you. So how do you answer that objection? What's your response? Okay, you say something about Jesus being God. Okay, so why then does it become important to talk about Mary as the mother of God? Why is that a suitable vehicle for affirming the divinity of Jesus? Any thoughts?
How is it not? And you cannot be human without being born of mother. Just like every one of us are born of a mother. I mean, that's
okay, but you've got me as far as Jesus' authentic humanity.
Okay.
But Mary, the mother of God.
Jesus
Okay.
So Mary gave birth to the Word that was God. And
Yeah. Yeah, and
God.
yeah, and let's get really, really concrete. What you want to say is, when we affirm that Jesus is divinity, we're concerned to say that Jesus did not become divine at some point. Right? Otherwise we'd be Arians. This is adoptionism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you want to say, okay, so Jesus is conceived. He's a blastocyst in the womb of the Virgin Mary. That he is a fertilized egg floating down the fallopian tubes and attaching himself to a uterine wall. What was that? Was it human substance that at some later point became God? Or was the blastocyst, the zygote attached to the uterine wall, was that God of very God? And what's the answer? Yes. God of very God. The incarnation.
The Word is eternal, but He became man.
Yeah, the incarnate Jesus is from the moment of his conception fully God and fully man. So that which was a blastocyst and then a zygote and then a fetus, and that which pressed through the vaginal cavity of the Blessed Virgin was God of very God, and therefore Mary is the mother not simply of Jesus, but is rightly spoken of in that sense as mother of God. So it's a hell of an important thing to affirm, because to fail to affirm it is to be a Christological heretic, but also a Trinitarian heretic. You become an Arian in the process, right? So
you'd have to, because then you start getting into the natures of the Trinity and
otherwise, at one there was a time when the Son was not. Yeah, so this is a big deal, and it's why it illustrates that point that I was driving at last night. All Marian theology is ultimately Christology. It's a way of protecting true things about Jesus. All right, let's see here. Coming down to the end of the heresies here, then you get Eutychianism or monophysitism. Eutychianism or monophysitism is a specific understanding of the human and divine relating within one person of Jesus Christ. That is, Eutychianism is a Christology. At various times, Eutychists taught that the human nature of Christ was overcome by the divine, or that Christ had a human nature, but it was unlike the rest of humanity. If you want to understand what Eutychianism or monophysitism is a bit like, it's a little bit like The Thing. The distinctive divine and distinctive human natures of Jesus are converted into a third mixed kind of thing. And thing is a good way of thinking about it. It's a kind of monster. The monophysites taught that there were two natures before the union of human and divine, but one nature after. Hence monophysitismos, from monos, single, and physis as nature. Now, what's the danger? Well, the unity comes at the cost of both humanity and divinity. Is it human? No, not really. Is it divine? Not really. Is it stone or is it a dude? Neither really or authentically one or the other. So you end up, with something else. So the Council of Ephesus gathers at 431 and develops this doctrine of